Another list, this time concerning managers. You've picked your top 10 managers that we're going to see at the World Cup. What are the criteria in your mind?
Well, I think this is a completely different exercise to, let's say, I were the sporting director at, I don't know, Chelsea, and I was trying to pick a manager. These are completely different skill sets to being good at international level. So I think if you were to rank coaches, you're going based off of number of Champions Leagues won or league titles or whatever. Tournament football is a completely different thing. International football is a completely different thing. And I think we're actually seeing that with some of the coaches that have come in and I think made some mistakes on the basis of not choosing on cohesion, on what you do with your limited time. I would actually make Mauricio Pochettino one of my top managers that hasn't quite understood what international management is yet.
And he's left now, but you can make the case that Gareth Southgate was the perfect embodiment of that very relatively mediocre club record, but did very, very, very well at international level.
Yeah, and so there are a few managers that you might be surprised. So let's start with the list. I begin with Nestor Lorenzo, the head coach of Colombia, the Colombian national team. You go back to Copa America, the way that he got that team to come together, and honestly, the fact that the team still works around James Rodriguez, which is kind of extraordinary, considering he hasn't really had a club contribution to speak for in several years. And yet every time he puts on that number 10 shirt of Colombia, that team works perfectly around him. I think he has elevated that group. Obviously, they have a couple of players that have really taken a step forward, namely Luis Diaz off that left side. But I think Lorenzo, getting Colombia to a Copa America final, the way that they qualified so comfortably through South America to get to this tournament, I really rate him as a manager, what he's been able to put together. And also, they play some pretty decent football as well. They hammered Mexico in a friendly 4-0. They performed really well in that Copa America. So I think the Colombian manager has been fantastic.
One of those dangerous teams you never want to see.
Never want to see
in your group. Who's number 9?
I wanted to give one African representative, and I think Pap Chow, the job that he's done in charge of Senegal, getting them to the final, obviously the madness of what happened at the Africa Cup of Nations final, managing that situation. Obviously, it says on the official record that they lost that final by 3-0, but we all watched it. We know what happened. And the Senegal side, it's one of those things I think happens in African football sometimes where there are teams with a lot of talent, and the question is, how does it all come together? And the manager is a very difficult job in order to make players that come from so many different places all work together. And yet I think the Senegal manager has done a very good job with that.
I think as fans of the world game as well, and we always love watching the craziness that the Africa Cup of Nations throws up, I always like it when an African team gets to have a good run in a World Cup, and you wouldn't put it past Senegal.
No doubt. No doubt. Let's go to number 8 then. Number 8, I've gone for Julian Nagelsmann, the head coach of Germany, who I think obviously has a fantastic pedigree, was previously the manager of Bayern, is one of these young coaches that got so much credit. The one thing, the reason why I think he's lower is because you look at their record in the Euros. They went out in the quarterfinal. They had that great performance in the opening game against Scotland, but couldn't make it work. You go to the Nations League last summer. They're one of the final 4 teams. They end up finishing in 4th. I just don't know if he's been able to figure out the right combination of players when it comes particularly to the fact, and this is sort of the difficult job that a national team coach has. You have Florian Wirtz and Jamal Musiala in the same team. How do you make it work? How do you make what you have available to you combine and coalesce? I just don't think that Nagelsmann has figured that part of the job out yet over the course of the last 2 years, and obviously leading into that home Euros where, I mean, you can say for Germany, you're at home, finishing, going out in the quarterfinal stage is fairly disappointing. So I've gone for him 8th.
I am glad he picked Lennart Karl, because there was some suggestion that maybe he would decide to leave him. That would have been absolutely crazy.
And Neuer as well, coming back to him after he internationally retired.
7.
Number 7, I've gone for Hajime Moriyasu, the head coach of Japan. You want to talk about a coach and a national team that it's very clear what they want to do in games? Japan is it. Japan, and he's been in charge since 2018, so it's built over time. And we talk so much now about Japan as a dark horse and Japan and what they've done. They have decided that the identity for the team that serves them best is the identity more often of what they play at club level, which for a large majority of the Japanese national side is in the Bundesliga. So they actually kind of play that sort of Bundesliga style of football. The way that he has built this team over time to be one of those teams that you do not want to face at a World Cup, I think he deserves an enormous amount of credit for it.
Good shout. The Japanese Big Sam.
Yeah, I guess we can say it. He's been around. He's been around for a long time. All right, number 6. This might be a shocking one. Again, we're talking about international management.
6.
Understanding the job. I've gone for Carlo Ancelotti as 6th. There is a part of me that thinks that what he did with Real Madrid will translate perfectly to the international game. But let's also consider the fact that they've lost 5 games since he's taken over as Brazil coach. which is shocking for a nation like Brazil. I don't think that he's been able to figure out how to get the best of Vinicius Jr., how to handle the Neymar situation. Obviously, he's involved in the squad now. That's been one of the big talking points. He's taken a lot of players from domestic football. So I think Ancelotti can certainly figure this out and go and win the thing. I don't think that we've seen as yet that he has a true grip of the international game and of Brazil specifically. Brazil is a very specific kind of footballing nation. They believe in what they believe in. And honestly, the way that they played against France as kind of the underdog that sat back and defended and got smoked in Foxborough, that's not what those Brazil fans want to see. So I think he has to figure out the right solution. I don't think he has a grip on this national team as yet.
No Ancelotti in the top 5. Who did make it?
So number 5, we've gone for Thomas Tuchel, the head coach of England. And I think there's been a lot of criticism of what Tuchel did with the squad. I actually completely disagree with that. And I actually think that Tuchel has shown a level of understanding about international football. It's not an all-star team. It's not, let's see if we can throw Cole Palmer and Phil Foden and Jude Bellingham and all these different players on the pitch at the same time and see if it all works. No, I have specific profiles. I have a specific way that I want to play. And sometimes, because I'm in a talent-rich nation like England, there are going to be great players that don't fit into it. And you know what? They're not going to make it. And that's okay. Because I have ideas of what I want from position 1 to position 26. The reason why I have him a little bit lower is because so far the results under him and some of the performances I think are a little bit disappointing from what we've seen so far, but obviously there's so much to be determined. I rate him highly because of how he understood the job of national team coach and how it's different to club football or how it's different to putting together the best players and see if you can make it work.
Yeah, he's his own man as well.
Yes.
He was only ever going to make some interesting choices. So Tuchel, number 5. Who's number 4?
And again, this is sort of a complete disparity in reputation. Zlatko Dalic is number 4.
Okay.
You're the manager of Croatia. You're the manager of Croatia, a nation of 4 million people. You finished 2nd in 2018. You finished 3rd in 2022. I'm sorry, you're one of the best international coaches. And this is such a difficult thing to figure out because you want to talk about, again, the intricacies of international management. Croatia, so many talented central midfield players, but maybe a little bit lacking in wing positions, maybe a little bit lacking in a center forward after Mandzukic departs. And yet you still manage to figure out how to build the best collective out of all of it. There are players in that Croatia squad that maybe aren't playing at the highest level in terms of club pedigree, but you figure it out. So you go into a World Cup with a coach that has gotten to 2nd and 3rd, knows exactly how to manage a tournament. And even though maybe he might not be a household name, it's exactly the kind of coach you want to go into a tournament with.
Yeah, an older side. I think that's the only thing
Yes.
you would maybe look at, the limitations, and
Correct.
that's not his fault, but when you look at the limitations in that team, a lot of those good players who've done well in recent World Cups are now getting on a bit.
All right, so let's go to number 3 then. This might be a bit low, Didier Deschamps. And the reason why you don't rank him 1, he got to the last 2 World Cup finals, he won 1, could very easily, if Colomboani puts one away, be a back-to-back champion. The reason why I have him a little bit lower is I still have this nagging feeling when I watch France that they could be much better than they are, that he is a little bit too conservative, that he doesn't quite allow the players to fully express themselves, that he has over-torqued the team towards balance. Now, that actually might be a good quality because with France, it can be so tempting to say, throw them all out there. Throw Olise and Mbappe and Dembele and Akliouche and Ryan Cherki and just throw them all out there and let them have fun. But he, I think, understands the right balance of teams. But I still think there's that little part of me that thinks that they don't quite fully hit their ceiling with Deschamps. But otherwise, his record as an international coach is simply stunning. He has figured out how to calm a French national team that was always known for their drama off the field and has always figured out a way to get this team to play together. So Deschamps obviously deserves an enormous amount of credit. There are just 2 people I rate slightly higher.
In many ways, Mr. World Cup, because he's one of only 3 men to have won the World Cup as a player and as a coach. Who's number 2?
Number 2, I've gone for Luis de la Fuente. And in some ways, this is about de la Fuente himself, but this is also as an avatar for what Spain represents as a national side, which is you see a team wearing that badge, and you know exactly what you're going to get. And De La Fuente has kept that continuity going from taking over from Luis Enrique to now, being the head coach of this group that knows exactly how to express themselves. I went into the Euros thinking that that squad was a little bit underwhelming, that they weren't going to be able to hit those heights. And yet you watch them play and they were staggering. They were staggering in qualifying as well, absolutely destroying some teams. This is a team that is incredibly well put together. And now, again, you talk about combinations of players. How does Pedri fit after he missed the Euros? Is he going to pick him in that midfield, or do you stick with Dani Olmo? What does life look like without Lamine Yamal? At the end of the day, you look at Spain and you know exactly what you're going to get, which is such a difficult thing to do from an identity standpoint, especially when that identity is attacking and with the ball rather than defensive. I think it's much easier international level to coach defense than it is to coach attack, and yet Spain coaches attack incredibly well.
I wondered where you were going to put Maurizio Pochettino, but it turns out he's going to be number one.
No, unfortunately, it's another Argentine coach who's going to be number one, Lionel Scaloni. Again, you want to... It's everything you could possibly want out of a coach. Again, you take over as an interim with not a lot of pedigree, and a lot of Argentina fans are like, we're really going to go to the World Cup with this guy? And yet, within a tournament, they start disastrously against Saudi Arabia. He makes the changes that are exactly needed, and he finds the right combination of players to work with Messi. How many coaches, again, fell into the trap of, well, we got to pick Agüero, we got to pick Higuain, we got to pick Di Maria, we got to pick all these guys, Tevez, with Messi. But what Messi needs is runners around him and people who know how to play with him and who can make the game. And he figured out the exact right combination of players. Yeah, maybe you leave some guys on the bench that otherwise don't deserve it. But he figured out the right personality, the right way to specifically manage that group of players. And so you go back to back to back, Copa America, World Cup, Copa America. You win the thing with Argentina, this nation that's desperate for it. You allow Messi the platform to finally win a World Cup. He has to be number one for me.
Okay, Lionel Scaloni, number one on Witty's top 10 of managers we're going to see at the World Cup in our World Cup spotlight. I'm going to give you an A+.